2011's Western comedy cartoon Rango was directed by Gore Verbinski, coming off of his fantastic run with the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. This really great picture is gorgeously animated and features a spectacular and vast voice cast, consisting of Ned Beatty, Isla Fisher, Ray Winstone, Timothy Olyphant, Abigail Breslin, Harry Dean Stanton, and Johnny Depp, who portrays our incredibly intriguing and introspective titular lizard. Though perhaps the most memorable character comes in the form of the badass, machine gun-tailed, exceedingly imposing and notorious antagonist, Rattlesnake Jake, voiced by the legendary Bill Nighy. I really appreciate and respect this film's often slower pacing. These scenes really take their time, which helps to immerse the viewer into this world and into the town of dirt, as does the consistently excellent cinematography. And lastly, but very importantly, this picture's themes are really intelligently and interestingly explored, the primary theme being identity and the lengths one will go to in order to belong, another prevalent one being crime and systematic corruption. Waking Life was released in 2001 and is not only, in my opinion, the best picture in Richard Linklater's filmography, but also undoubtedly the most individualistic and stylistic animated film in cinematic history. The immense voice cast is brilliant, naturalistic, and exceedingly distinct across the board. Perhaps the most authentic collective vocal performance in all of animated cinema, while the ultra-unique variations of animation are visually fascinating and trippy. The variety of visuals are so distinct from one another, they're perpetually eye-widening and magnetic. The musical score is absolutely beautiful and versatile and enthralling. This very complex story deals quite heavily in the concept of dreams, one which has always intrigued me personally. So to have these intelligent characters delivering beautifully written, dream-laden dialogue is simply symphonic. Waking Life is overflowing with a multitude of intriguing philosophical conversations. The dialogue within Linklater's screenplay is perpetually gripping and exceptionally intelligent. You, the viewer, feel present within the environment of the picture, listening in intently on these intriguing discussions, which are always overflowing with substance. If you have yet to see this distinctive, mind-bending animated feature, I highly recommend it. Just assure that your brain is prepped for an immense amount of intellectual consumption and wide-eyed visual captivation. Shrek 2 is one of cinema's great sequels. Practically every single solitary joke lands, whether it be in the realm of pop culture, adult-based humor, or visual gag. The immense cast of vibrant characters is simply phenomenal and an utter delight to watch. Our now iconic trio returns in this fantastic follow-up, consisting of Eddie Murphy's Donkey, Cameron Diaz as Princess Fiona, and of course our titular ogre, voiced by the mega-talented Mike Myers. Shrek 2 also features a number of wonderful character additions. Jennifer Saunders and Rupert Everett play the nefarious pair of the fairy godmother and Prince Charming, respectively. John Cleese voices King Harold, not to mention the legendary Julie Andrews plays Queen Lillian, though unquestionably, this picture's most memorable addition is that of Puss in Boots, voiced by Antonio Banderas. Perhaps this flick's most compelling component upon rewatch is the fact that it's verging on a movie musical, whether a song prominently backs a sort of montage-esque sequence, like in the case of the Counting Crows' Accidentally in Love, Funky Town by the group Lips Inc., and the late great David Bowie's Changes, or one of the film's characters actually performs, like in the case of both the fairy godmother's original tune and her rendition of Holding Out for a Hero, as well as Puss in Boots and Donkey's version of Livin' La Vida Loca, featured at film's end and into the credits. Shrek 2 is, simply put, a smart, hilarious, and energetic romp with a big beating heart at its core. This 2001 Pete Docter directed animated feature is, in a word, wonderful. The monster in the child's closet or under their bed concept is a tale as old as time, but what the filmmakers do here is creatively expand upon this concept in clever and inventive fashion. This picture, which is impressively vast in scope, contains not only a really lovely musical score, but also a sensational collection of characters who are visually fun and immensely distinct in regards to both design and personality. The voice cast is phenomenal and simply irreplaceable. Our primary duo, consisting of John Goodman's James P. Sullivan and Billy Crystal's Mike Wazowski, is amazing, impossibly authentic, and hilarious. Not to mention the greatness of this pair rivals that of the legendary Toy Story duo of Woody and Buzz. The supporting voice cast is packed with classic talent. Steve Buscemi plays Randall Boggs, Frank Oz portrays Fungus, James Coburn portrays Waternoose, Jennifer Tilly voices Celia, whilst Pixar regular John Ratzenberger voices the Abominable Snowman. Then one of my personal favorite supporting characters in animated cinema, the incredibly funny and quotable Roz, is voiced by the multi-talented Bob Peterson, who wrote the screenplay for Finding Nemo as well as Up. This picture's action-packed third act is genuinely intense and visually super interesting and creative. The loving father-daughter-like relationship between Sully and the adorable Boo is one of the sweetest and most effectively developed in animation. Their depressingly forced goodbye is utterly heartbreaking, and Mike's rebuilding of Boo's door in order to provide best friend Sully a reunion with her is tear-jerking, to say the least. This Pete Docter directed picture is gorgeously animated and deeply profound. The story follows not only 11-year-old Riley, who has just moved with her parents from Minnesota to San Francisco, but also a small collection of embodied emotions in her mind. Now, this general concept has been tackled in the past, like in the 90s sitcom Herman's Head, but never before has it been perfectly executed and creatively and compellingly depicted as it is in this poignant picture. In fact, it may be my personal favorite film of 2015. The musical score, composed by whom I believe to be one of the most brilliant musical minds on the planet, Michael Giacchino, is magnificent and magical. There are a multitude of tracks on the Inside Out album that I've been listening to on a pretty consistent basis since the film's theatrical release. I adore the narrative scope, externally, so to speak, small, more so quaint and realistic, whilst internally the story's scope is vast and so often impossibly vibrant. Inside Out is packed with a number of subtle, clever jokes, as well as fun physical gags, often involving Bill Hader's fear, as well as Louis Black's anger. Richard Kind, who is briefly featured in Toy Story 3, voicing the character of Bookworm, does a wonderful job playing the inventive Bing Bong, whose "Take her to the moon for me" moment is exceedingly heart-wrenching and powerful. I adore and respect the picture's ultimate message that sadness is an integral emotion, and it is not to be suppressed, but at least at times embraced, as it can help one to develop and grow. This gorgeously animated picture features not only a beautiful musical score, but also a voice cast that is overflowing with talent. In the realm of iconic returning players, you've got Tom Hanks and Tim Allen as the dynamic duo of Woody and Buzz, the late legend Don Rickles as Mr. Potato Head, John Ratzenberger as Ham, Joan Cusack as Jesse, and Wallace Shawn as Rex. We also get a number of wonderful character additions in the final film of this trilogy, namely Michael Keaton as Ken, Jeff Garlin as Buttercup, Kristen Schaal as Trixie, Timothy Dalton as Mr. Pricklepants, and Whoopi Goldberg as Stretch, not to mention our main antagonist, Lotso Huggin' Bear, voiced by Ned Beatty. Lotso is not only an exceptional animated villain, he is simply a brilliant cinematic villain in general. He initially comes off as this jolly, lovable chap, but ultimately, once his true villainy is revealed, emanates a dark and menacing aura. The scene in which we learn of Lotso's tragic backstory is beautifully depicted and perfectly, and in concept hilariously, narrated by the jaded Chuckles the Clown. For me personally, Toy Story 3 is inexplicably nostalgic, though I believe objectively this picture is the epitome of accessibility. Older adults may appreciate the epic prison escape component of the film, inspired by such pictures as the 1963 Steve McQueen flick The Great Escape, as well as 1967's Cool Hand Luke, starring Paul Newman. Young adults such as myself grew up with the brilliant Toy Story series, so it is practically instinctive to connect to Andy, who is heading to college, so therefore must let go of his childhood. Then of course young kids will love the vibrant imagery, the visual gags, not to mention that the film's most prominent setting is a daycare. Toy Story 3 is beautifully well-rounded, it's fun and adventurous, profoundly emotional, and it's essentially technically perfect, at least as close to perfection as possible.